apparel, you big bitch.
He was a down bad boy with a sister complex until he decided to run off to New York to live a new life. At first he spends his time loitering around causing trouble, but he eventually stumbles upon the gang Libra, a mysterious gang that fights against any threats to the city. Thanks to him having the all-seeing God eyes, he is able to convince them to let him join in, thus starting a new adventure. Episode 1. Sitting within a forest looking at a lake in her wheelchair is a girl named Michelle. She reads a letter from her brother, talking about how he has moved into the city and left her behind. At the end of his letter, he tells her that there is something important he needs to talk to her about. With the city being busy and noisy every day, he has hidden something from her since he left. Originally, he thought he was a worthless human with no powers or uses to help anybody. Although this is still mostly true from time to time, he feels as if he is the one who is saving it all. He just wanted to tell her this, with her being the main reason that he picked up the courage to run to the city. He says it may be a while until he sees her again, but he will continue to build his story and tell her how he met the people closest to him. Meanwhile, as she reads this, he runs through town, passing by various looking people and monsters. With it being hard to make connections because of this, he chases after a small monkey that has stolen his camera. The city used to be the Big Apple, New York City, until a monster emerged at it and took over. Now, with there being various monsters and humans living together, it seems as if everyone has been forced to adapt to the situation. With the humans and monsters coexisting, everyone lives a happy life, experiencing things they have never done before. Whether it's new food or television, everybody gets to do new things thanks to the Monsters Edition. As he runs, an explosion occurs nearby, knocking himself and the monkey down. This allows him to regain his goods and continue his life. He explains that he came to this city 3 weeks ago and has since joined a gang with hopes of making a little bit of scrap money. While he lies around on the ground, a white-haired man kicks him in the face, informing him that he is Zap, his boss in the gang. He claims that he is late for his meeting point, despite it being his first day in the game. Zap tells him the next time he needs someone to come pick him up, he needs to call him Daddy. The boy getting bullied is our protagonist, Leo, a broke newbie who recently joined this gang. A few hours before all of this happened, Leo was sitting around drinking coffee while getting flamed by a burger flipper. They tell him to stop worrying about everything and write his letter already. This letter ended up being the one to Michelle, making her wonder what he is hesitating for. She then asks him why he is even in this city to begin with, reminding him it's been 3 weeks already since he came here. He claims to be an apprentice reporter that vows everything in his life on the camera he has. The clerk then reminds him that he needs to actually buy something if he wants to continue drinking their coffee. Before we continue, let's take a moment to answer the question of the day. What is the most overpowered eye ability in anime? Comment down below for a chance to be shouted out in the next video. Now back to the recap. As she calls him a hungry homeless man, the owner of the shop cooks up a free burger for him. The clerk then tells him that he needs to clean some dishes if he wants to earn this burger. While this happens, a monkey emerges and steals his camera, forcing him to run outside. With this monkey being called a sonic speed monkey, they question how he was even able to see it, considering it's far too fast for a human to see. This was the start of people suspecting his true identity, with him being able to see something as fast as this. Then it happened. He was shot by the missiles and was then approached by Zap. With the monkey still on the ground, he tries to ignore Zap, revealing that the real reason he came here was for Zap's gang, the secret society of magic users, Libra. The gang Libra uses its forces to protect the world in the shadows from terrorist attacks and other dangers. With it being his dream to find the truth of his power, he thought coming here would be his best option. He then enters an elevator alongside Zap, where he heads high up to the top of a skyscraper. When he exits the elevator, he is welcomed by a man named Klaus, who introduces his companion Chain, the busty girl. He welcomes Leo to the room and calls him Johnny, making them wonder if he is actually Johnny. Chain claims that Johnny died recently, so there is no way that he is truly this person. Now, with his identity exposed, Leo begs to continue to work for them despite him not even being supposed to be here. Then suddenly, the television shifts to show the man from earlier who shot the missiles past Leo. As he is apprehended, he goes on a rampage, thus switching the television to another man. With this man being the self-proclaimed lord of the area, he claims that today marks the day when a game will start. He informs them that every few minutes a gate will open with clues to find a demon who is robbing a bank. If the demon finds the gates first, however, as he talks about this, the monkey turns into a demon and slashes open their own building. With the origin of this so-called gate being from the monkey, they are forced to chase after it. Klaus then asks Leo who he truly is, so he introduces himself formally, apologizing in the process. He also thanks Klaus for saving him, causing him to question how he saw the attack coming in. With even Zap being unable to see it, Klaus asks him if it's because of his eyes that he saw it. Leo then begins talking about his backstory. See, 6 months ago he was spending his days as usual, taking pictures of his little sister. With him ignoring the scenery and just taking pictures of her, he was a bit of a weirdo. Considering his sister was born without usable legs, he came to this city with hopes of finding some kind of cure to it all. Then suddenly, while taking pictures, a monster appeared before him, and his sister giving him the option to have the demon's eyes or his sister's legs back. He ended up taking the eyes for some reason, leading him to the present. Because of this, he felt like a coward, crying his eyes out during this moment. Meanwhile, the police SWAT team emerges above him, forcing Klaus to make a difficult decision. He decides to make him an offer, asking him to join their gang in order to change the world as they know it. They tell him if he helps them, then he will help him achieve his own goal, accepting him into Libra formally. The police guards then jump down, so Klaus takes to the stand, telling the others to wait. As he approaches one of the robots, he tells Leo that he isn't a coward. He uses his blood battle technique, encasing the area in his blood. Following this, he uses the blood to slash open all of the robots at once, allowing the others to make an escape. They then rush towards Chain, who is seen chasing the monkey and demon. Watching all of this go down is the Lord of the Demon World, wondering when Libra will stop getting in his way. Leo, on the contrary, flies down the highway alongside Zap, with hopes of finding the monkey. They are told the monkey is already at their location, so they look around only to get the entire highway destroyed before them. After further inspecting, Leo finds the burger flipper and her boss sitting under some rubble. He attempts to help her, but decides he would rather just do his own thing, so he tells them to sit quietly while he finishes things up. Upon saying this, the demon emerges behind him and goes for his head. Right before it lands a hit, Zap stops it, allowing him to rethink what his plans are. Leo whips out his Glock and begins to prepare for battle, while Zap uses his own blood technique. When he cracks open a blood vial, it summons a large blade that he plans on using for his attack. As this happens, Leo puts on his goggles with hopes of finally unleashing his true power within his eyes. Before he can do anything, Zap ends up cutting up the demon, allowing him to make a break for it. As he runs, the demon instantly regenerates, causing Zap to save him once again. With his attacks being instant death and super fast, the demon stands no chance at escaping. During this time, Leo approaches the monkey with the gun and prepares to shoot it. Before he does, he uses his eyes skill to inspect the monkey, where he finds a small bug on the top of its head. He kills this bug instead of the entire monkey, thus ruining the plans. With killing the monkey being the cue to unlock the demon's portal, the Lord is enraged to see this happen. Once this calms down, Leo heads back to the shop to ask the clerk if he can wash some dishes now. Episode 2. Back in the late 1900s, there was a fog that covered the entirety of the city. Once this happened, Libra was created as a team to fight against monsters and other tragedies that attacked the city. Although he is unsure how many members in total there are, Leo knows that it's thanks to this organization that everyone is able to live safely. When Leo gets to work, he finds Zap attacking Klaus only to get thrown to the ground. He tells Leo that every day he attacks him with attempts to subdue him, but he gets defeated easily. It's said that the people who hold the all-seeing God eyes can not only peer into the future, but also the past to see what can possibly happen. A man named Steven tells this to Klaus and informs him that they could get a large target on their backs for allowing someone with these eyes into the organization. While they talk about Leo, he is seen looking at a map to figure out his delivery status. Because he is broke with no money, Leo is forced to work as a pizza delivery driver, making a good income. While he delivers, he notices a girl dropping her ice cream, but their brother retrieves it in the nick of time. This reminds him of himself in the past, but he continues forward, delivering the pizza. When he approaches the man he is serving to, he finds Zap behind the door completely naked. He steals the pizza without paying for it, making Leo enraged. He begs for him to give it back, only to find a bunch of hot girls inside of his place, asking what's going on. Eventually, Leo is able to steal the pizza back, but Zap persists with taking it. This leads to a chase down all day, stealing the pizza back and forth. With no way of escaping, Leo asks Zap why he is following him around. Zap claims that he is just going where he is, and that he isn't intentionally following him. With him joining Leo for some deliveries, he asks what his power truly is. He claims that he is able to bend his blood to his will, allowing him to make tons of slices and such. While they drive, Leo stops and hits a turn, telling Zap that there is something going on with this truck in front of them. Upon further inspection, they realize that this dry cleaner's truck is just a front. Instead, it is actually a means of transporting bodies, with there being a demon behind it all. When the demon notices him looking at it, he instantly hits the dash, not wanting to stick his nose into something he shouldn't. Zap immediately calls this in and tells his group that there is something going on with this dry cleaner's truck. He tells Chain that it's actually a demon running it that they should track down. As he talks, the demon approaches Leo and slices at him, but he narrowly escapes. With it hitting Zap, the demon asks Leo how he is able to see through his illusion. He reports it to his boss, causing even more demons to emerge too soon. As the demon reports what happened, Zap places some blood on his back, thus allowing him to track him. The demon then snatches up Leo and gets back to running while he lies on the ground injured. Thanks to this, Chain is able to track him down, but she eventually loses sight of it completely. As she wonders where he is, Leo sits in the back of the truck, realizing all of the bodies within it are alive. The demon informs him that they will eat these demons rather than do something normal. After saying this, another demon emerges before them and tells Leo he won't be able to escape, him being the only one who can see through his illusion. He then checks out Leo's eyes and realizes he has the all-seeing God eyes, making him think it's a big score. Meanwhile, Steven and Klaus talk about the truck, wondering where Leo could be. On the other hand, Klaus realizes just how powerful Leo's eyes truly are, him being the only person in the entire city who could see through this illusion. After some time, the demons head into the afterworld with Leo and the bodies in hand to hopefully sell them off. As they travel, Leo uses his eyes to see where he is at, learning that he is deep within the city. He knows he needs to let the others know what's going on, but is unsure of how to even do so. He thinks it's embarrassing to have to rely on others all the time, so tries to think of a solution he can figure out. With him officially being a member of Libra, he knows he can't continue to rely on others his whole life. Despite having these thoughts, he soon realizes there is nothing he can do, so he begins complaining. While this happens, Chain talks with the doctor about Zap's condition. He talks about how weird it is for him to have so much blood, not knowing his true power. Although he is knocked out, Chain notices that thread he is extending onto Leo, so they begin rushing towards his location. While this happens, the demon notices what's going on, so he goes into the room, demanding an explanation from Leo. With this now being a rush to see who can get there first, Klaus drives around with the utmost importance. Upon discovering this, the demon attempts to take out Leo for good, thinking he is ruining their plans too much. He tells Leo he is going to die, yet Leo only tells him that he is the one who will die here. He then uses his eyes to make all of the demons hallucinate and see things they were never supposed to be. With this being one of his powers, he is able to make the car flip over, considering it is a demon itself. Following this, Zap uses his powers to show the location straight to the demon car, allowing both Chain and Klaus's teams to rush to his side. After a bit of time, Chain reaches the end of the threat, revealing the demon car now without its hallucination abilities. Within an instant, Libra uses their powers to take out the demon car and face off against the demons. Klaus in particular shines, using his blood techniques to make the demons seem like small fries. He uses his 111th technique to completely overpower them, thus saving Leo and allow them to find 19 missing people that were trapped within the demon car. Not only did they save these people, they all learned of a new illusion technique even they were unable to find. Thanks to this, they congratulate Leo for doing such a good job despite him being covered in bandages in the hospital. After only a few days, Leo makes a full recovery and is only needed to go back to the hospital for checkups during that week. With a bit of spare time, he goes around taking pictures of the hospital grounds until he stumbles upon an old graveyard. He wonders what this place is, not knowing what he has just discovered by wandering around. He's then approached by a girl telling him this is somewhere nobody else goes to. She looks at him and asks how he was able to find this place, calling him by name. With this being shown, he opens his eyes to inspect her only for her to introduce herself as White, a ghost living within the cemetery. Episode 3. After hearing she is a ghost, Leo is unsure how to react, so he decides to take a picture of her. Somehow she pops up on the screen, making him question whether she truly is a ghost or not. She instantly begins laughing, thinking he is crazy for taking a picture of a ghost. He then inspects the picture further, making her decide that she likes him. When he wakes up, however, he finds a demon on his face and another large demon right next to him. With this being his apartment, his landlord soon enters, informing him he has been evicted. With there being no laws against immediate evictions, he is forced out of his place and is now homeless. Meanwhile, Klaus plays a computer game until he is interrupted by Steven asking what Leo is doing here. He asks Steven if they should give him some money for compensation, but apparently Leo has refused to do any of this. While Leo sleeps, Zap pulls up and sits on his face, making him unable to breathe. He simply ignores Leo and begins talking about why he is injured, having fought some street thug. Although this thug was normal, they took in a drug that allowed their muscles to be enhanced rapidly, thus allowing them to put up a good fight. To show more about this chain, whips out a tape containing some of the information about the effect of this drug. With it making someone turn into a demon, they treat it seriously with hopes of getting it off the streets. At first, they decide to check any gang affiliations with it until the monkey begins staring at Zap. It looks deep into his eyes, eventually making Zap realize that Leo is completely knocked out. With him being unconscious, he shakes him around with hopes of waking him up. Following these events, Libra went on to investigate various gangs and criminals. They assume it went into the underworld, so this forces them to dig even deeper if they want to figure anything out. One day, Klaus goes to meet with a girl named KK, a girl who is also a member of Libra with blood techniques. They then head further into the city to investigate, where he asks if she knows anything about the drug. He also tells her that she can always come to him if she needs help. As he says this, they head into the most dangerous area of the city, making his words seem a bit counterintuitive. They eventually arrive to find someone named the Grandmaster, causing Klaus to question what he is doing. He introduces himself to the man and asks him to leave the area immediately, claiming it's too dangerous for him to be here. At the end of the hallway is a demon who welcomes the Grandmaster along with Klaus into their estate. This man is one of the leading bosses within the underworld, someone they should be working to take out. He then welcomes the Grandmaster as well, asking him it's about time they get started. The only reason they are able to talk with this demon is because he is a big fan of the game that Klaus enjoys as well. This game is called Prosphère, a spin-off of chess that was created after the demons entered this world. With the demon using this game as a way of negotiating, the Grandmaster thinks he will beat the demon in order to fulfill his wishes. Klaus stops him, however, and reminds him that he can't play 2 games in one day. The Grandmaster quickly stops him and asks why he thinks he will lose, thinking he has prepared for this game better than anyone. He claims that he has never lost and nobody is better at this game than him. Despite this, Klaus still advises him to back out, but he refuses, entering the back room to play against the demon. While they play, the Grandmaster wishes for nuclear weapons for his country, as his wish. The demon tells him that if he wants this, then he must play a single game lasting at least 9 hours, all the while beating him. If he happens to do this, then he will fulfill his wish and make him one of the most powerful men. While he plays, he also asks for Klaus and KK to be eliminated, hoping not to have his visit here revealed. The demon informs him that he wouldn't leak this, but he will accept his request regardless, adding 1 hour to the game. In exchange for these requests, he will take his life if he loses, making it a death game for many souls. As they play, the Grandmaster begins to gain the advantage, but soon realizes that he is playing into the demon's hands. With the area getting hotter as he plays and time moving faster than usual, he soon realizes that he made a mistake in playing against the demon. After some time, he is thrown out of the room after losing to the demon. The demon then takes his life in the process, upholding his end of the deal. Right before he sends in his demons to kill him, Carlos stops them and asks the demon to let him play his game first. Although he would usually reject this request, he accepts it at the condition that he lasts 99 hours. While they play, Klaus tells him that his request is about the drug going around, making the demon wonder why he always meddles in such small affairs. He tells him that once he has played him for 99 hours, he will accept both of his wishes, acting as if he knows he will win. As time goes on, the Grandmaster wonders why he hasn't been thrown out just yet. He thought he was the best in the world, and yet Klaus has played for countless hours against him, making his 10-hour limit seem like child's play. KK explains to the Grandmaster that Klaus is more than just some random man. As time passes, Klaus begins to feel the after effects from playing for such a long time. With the game progressing so far, the demon ends up whipping out his strongest piece that he thinks will surely take him out. In turn, Klaus also presents a strong piece, allowing him to hold on even longer. After some time, the demon begins to realize just how great Klaus truly is. With blood dripping down his nose and his spirit diminishing, the game eventually ends with Klaus being thrown out. It is revealed he won the game, thus sparing not only the Grandmaster's life, but also allowing him to achieve the information he wanted. With this info, they instantly send in an attack on the producers of the drug, allowing them to stop the information from spreading. After this, the other Libra members wonder how he acquired the information about the drug, not knowing what he went through to get it. Thanks to the little bonus Leo acquired from Libra, he was able to get a nicer place where he allows White to reside in. She inspects his pictures, eventually moving on to the picture of herself, only to find she isn't inside of it. She tells him he has good eyes, not knowing the all-seeing God eyes he actually holds. Episode 4. Later that week, a man walks through town whistling an annoying song, but nobody seems to pay it any mind. After some time, he finds Leo and decides to follow him around. Leo eventually notices the strange light that the monsters are emitting, so he blurts aloud that it's interesting. Someone then tells him that around 25% of the monsters are unknown to the humans, with 5% of the regular people being unable to even be seen by humans. While this happens, the other members of Libra enjoy a party together, inviting all the babes over. Eventually, Leo arrives as well and drinks some orange juice while on the side of someone looking like his child. He listens to their conversations about guns and bombs, but he decides to keep quiet. The man beside him is introduced as Patrick, one of Libra's oldest and strongest members. He then asks Leo to tell him something funny, having heard great things about him. With Leo not saying anything, he gets ticked off, wondering why he is acting so shy around him. To hopefully ease him up, he begins spinning him around and dancing with him, eventually putting him down when Klaus asks what he has been up to. Leo talks about how he spotted some demon on the train today and blurted it out. Upon hearing this, everyone surrounds him, asking more about it. They then whip out a color and ask if it matches this, making him sure that it was this. Zap then decides to tell him what the ruckus is about, him having seen a vampire. Considering vampires are usually undetectable by anyone and completely stealth, its emergence is big news. With this being lots of information, despite it being something simple, they are forced to call in the big guns. Leo asks Zap who this man is, but he refuses to answer, showing this man must have something wrong with him. He's referred to as Lucky Abrams, a man who is one of the world's leading vampire experts. Even Klaus considers him to be a mentor, showing just how powerful he must be. Zap explains that they fight random monsters that come by, while he takes on the strongest of monsters. As they talk, Zap is shouted out by someone, claiming he finally found him. After doing so, a ton of things around him get destroyed, making it seem like he is more unlucky than lucky. He approaches Zap and he asks for some space. After this, Abram heads to the Libra HQ with Leo on his shoulder like his luggage. Klaus welcomes him inside, asking if he had anything to do with the crash at the airport. He says he simply sneezed. He then explains that he was almost run over by a truck on his way here, showing the reason for his name. With him having a curse on him allowing him to remain unharmed, anyone around him falls victim to his unluckiness. He then approaches Leo and asks to see his eyes, but he refuses. Following this, Abraham presents a hand that is said to be an elder vampire's hand. With them only running into vampires a few times during their lives, they are said to be some of the most dangerous monsters out there. During their last mission to take out a vampire, they lost over 300 people, with 50 of them being elite soldiers who worked for Libra. At the end, they were only able to take his arm, making it a complete failure of a mission. Within his arm, however, was a piece of paper that nobody was ever able to read. Now, with Leo having the god's eyes, they assume he will be able to hopefully read the paper. When he tries to do so, he falls back and begins experiencing a strong light pulsing in his vision. After this happens, they head out to investigate further, taking a train on the way. As they travel, a huge monster comes by and attempts to eat the train, but it is knocked out by some mysterious force. With them having Abraham, Klaus, Zap, and Leo, they wonder if this group will be enough to take out an elder vampire. They then arrive at their destination, and instantly a huge pillar falls from the sky, almost killing Zap, where Abraham gets Zap to record him talking about his search for the vampire. He tells the camera that this is the first time in the world that they will get a good picture of the vampire, him thinking Leo will be able to reveal it to them. With this being said, Leo goes over to the edge and looks into the void, searching for any vampires or remains of them. When he opens his eyes, light starts flickering intensely, but he is able to see the red wings said to be the vampires. As he looks, his eyes shatter, making him fall to the ground in a panic. Blood then begins pouring from his eyes, causing him to reveal that there isn't just one vampire, but hundreds. With this information, they declare it to be an emergency, so they request even the FBI's help in this matter. Apparently, the vampires are supposedly marching towards the city as they speak, causing mayhem. While this happens, the vampires end up breaking through the line of defense they have set up, forcing Steven and KK to take them on. They walk through the subway looking for the vampires, eventually coming to a halt. With 2 robots under the control of the vampires rushing towards them, they take them out instantly. Further down the subway are the 2 vampires, controlling more robotos to block the way. Like expected, however, they defeat them with ease. Eventually, Steven reaches one of the vampires and is pushed back. In the nick of time, KK shoots a bullet at her head, but she doesn't back down at all. Instead, she emits ravens from her face and counters by sending in a power that throws the 2 to the ground. Although it seems impossible to win, Klaus assumes with Leo's help, he will be able to find out their weakness. While this happens, White looks at the picture Leo took until the man who talked with Leo on the train emerges with red eyes. On the other side of the city, the vampires continue fighting Steven and KK, making the battle seem impossible for them to win. They talk about how powerful they are, but Steven doesn't back down. He tells them whether it's 1,000 years or even 10,000, humanity will eventually come out on top and take them out. They then attempt to strike again, but before they can even reach, Klaus emerges behind them. He destroys the first vampire with ease, then moves on to the other one, sealing it with his 999th form of his technique. The blood encases the vampire until it eventually forces it into a small cross, making her completely demolished. Following this, he left the station with the 2 in hand, making Leo wonder what is soon to come for them. He knows that his companions are strong, but also saw hundreds, if not thousands, of vampires in the depths of the void ready to strike. He wonders who will come out on top in the end, knowing this is sure to be the start of a large war. Leo then takes the train home that day, thinking about his conversation with the vampire from before. The vampire who had asked him who talked with him told him that he already knows what he is, vanishing within an instant in the process. This man is introduced as Femt, the King of Despair, and one of the strongest vampires within the city. Episode 5. After White decided to return to Leo's place, she ticked off at him. He questions why she is acting this way, thinking he never did anything to make her mad at him. He then realizes that his sister gets mad for no reason sometimes too, so he thinks it shouldn't be that big of a deal. He goes on about his day thinking about it, working under Zap as the pizza delivery man. With Zap now employing himself in this job as well, he decides to drive like a maniac, swerving through the streets. Because of this, Leo decides to take control of his eyes, using his own to ensure that they drive safely. This only makes them drive worse, however, with a large semi almost hitting them. Then suddenly, a huge monster emerges behind them, causing them to enter a panic. With this monster going straight towards them, they continue dashing away while everyone else watches on the television. They question what this monster is, but in reality they know it's something they should have taken out a while ago. Eventually, Klaus heads to meet a man named Dog, untying him from his shackles while informing him the woman who did this to him has come back. Dog, however, has no clue what they are talking about, so he uses his blood technique to grab a hold of Abraham's arm. Dog eventually stops and reveals that this technique is a part of him uncontrollable. He somehow calms it down then. The trio head into the city to hopefully defeat this monster. While Leo and Zap flee, on the other hand, they run past Chain, who refuses to help. Instead, she simply wishes them luck, but they have none of this when Leo falls off the bike onto the monster. He then gets a call from Zap, informing him he isn't dead just yet. With one of them on the top of the monster, and the other being chased, it's a pretty strange scenario. As he holds onto the truck, some girl notices him and instantly recognizes him as the kid with the all-seeing eyes. In another part of the city, the King of Despair meets with the Lord of the Underworld, talking about this girl. With the Lord of the Underworld having nothing to do, he tells the king that he is bored. He wishes he could go on a rampage as well, but knows this isn't possible. As this happens, Leo gets tied up by the girl, talking to him about her boyfriend. With this man being Dog, she thinks that he is madly in love with him. She talks about how his personality is perfect and looks are perfect, so she combined her boyfriend with Dog. By doing so, he ended up getting this blood technique, thus allowing him to become the man he is today. She talks about this as if it was blending a shake, claiming she mixed them together to make something perfect. After hearing this, Leo starts panicking upon realizing she is most definitely his enemy. He then notices a painting of Klaus, causing him to ask if that's why she stole him. She tells him she did it for fun, and rather she came here to take back her man. By using her own power, she wants to do this, making her have no interest in Leo's eyes. After some time, she finds Dog on the truck on the run, causing her to get overjoyed. This girl's name is Aligura, a figure who has been causing mayhem within the city for years. As they run, Dog thinks of the experiments done on him, so he eventually decides to get his revenge. He then transforms into a new form which allows him to stop the crazy car in an instant. Although he did this, he ends up receiving massive impact by doing so. As he flies through buildings, the King of Despair and the Lord of the Underworld meet together, wondering what the outcome of this will be. Eventually, after some time, Dog regains his spirits, only to find everyone staring at him, waiting for him to get back up. As they talk and have fun, they still don't know that Leo is being held captive within the monster. With her torturing him with her words, she asks him to tell her some love stories. She then asks who he likes to, which he is unsure who he is interested in. She continues pressing him, eventually kicking him, demanding him to come up with someone to talk about. He then begins talking about a girl he has been hitting it off with recently, but he has no real interest in her. This doesn't please her, so she kicks him some more, demanding him to tell her what he really thinks about this girl. She tells Leo to tell the girl he likes how he feels, but he rejects this offer, claiming it's not like that. On the other hand, Dog gets ready to face off against the monster once again. With him remembering everything Aligura did to him just recently, he decides that he will take her out for good this time. Before he transformed into this new power, he was proud of who he was, making the two of them a bad mix. Meanwhile, Leo is still attempting to escape the area, but he has no possible way of getting out. He then gets a call from Steven, so he responds, but ends up alerting Aligura. Because of this, he switches to singing and just listens as he talks about how he is going to take out the monster. With them planning to lure it to somewhere else, he wants Leo to take control of the truck's eyes and lure it elsewhere. With them going straight towards a traffic jam, he has no choice but to do this, so he takes control and succeeds. Now, with it going in the way that they want, the Libra members are able to prepare for their counterattack. To start, KK takes out the monsters flying around it, and Steven follows by using his freeze technique to slow the monster down. Now, with it decreasing speed significantly, Dog tells Zap to get some distance so he doesn't get caught in the crossfire. He thinks this is a pointless warning, but he soon realizes that this isn't just talk. Before this happens, however, Klaus uses his own technique to send the monster truck flying into the air right to Dog. As it falls down, he prepares an attack, but soon realizes this isn't going to work like they planned. Because of this, he switches up the plan within an instant, putting his own life on the line in the process. Upon figuring this out, the monster emerges right before them, so Dog sends in a fatal strike. This ends up shattering the truck and sends it flying across the entire city, causing tons of rubble to be flown off along with it. Not only did it fly out of the city, but it went all the way into the water, making there not be too much damage. Once all of this is done, Leo goes to the hospital for his checkup, where he spots White flirting with a doctor. He gets a bit jealous, so he decides to head home without saying anything, leaving even his monkey behind. After some time, he ends up going back to the place in order to talk with White a bit. Here he asks her if she wants to see a movie, to which she accepts. He ends up smuggling her out, her being a patient within the hospital who isn't allowed to leave. She asks where he has been, so he says he was just hanging out, hiding the fact he had a crazy adventure during the day. The two spend their night watching the movie, where Leo thinks it's complete trash. As he goes to tell this to White, he notices her crying while watching the movie, forcing him to keep to himself. He asks if she is all right, but she is unable to speak, with her emotions getting the best of her. He tells her that being here with her reminded him of hanging out with his sister when he was younger. It ends up working, with her scooting over to his side for a hug. Episode 6. After this little bit of action, Leo goes on about his usual day, getting a cheap burger to hold him over until dinner. As he walks back to his cheap apartment, he decides to take a stroll through town first. While he walks around, He wonders how much it costs to maintain all of this stuff, knowing it's not cheap. He then runs into some street vendors who are trying to hustle the locals. With this area being a big area for shops, he wonders what he should do today. He then notices a small monster man get run over by a truck. After he checks up on him, he is completely fine, instead asking Leo for a bite of his burger, acting as if nothing happened. Out of the kindness of his heart, he decides to give him something to eat, but is stopped when the drivers of the car come to complain. They ask the monster why he dashed out in front of his car, telling him he isn't responsible for whatever he did. The monster asks for a burger to be happy, so they go grab a half-eaten one from their truck. Once they give him this, they decide to leave, letting the monster go about its day. Upon arriving back at the HQ, he presents Zap with all of the burgers and fries he acquired. He tells Leo that he hasn't had one of these in a long time, them all being closed after the monsters came through. Now, with them back open, he is overjoyed to be able to eat such a delicacy. Once he finishes things up here, he goes to talk with White, who asks him if he wants to go to the burger place with him sometime. She then moves on to talking about how the world is in shambles. Even though they have started to live with monsters, there is still so much chaos ruining this world. After talking things through with her, he finds the monster who calls Leo, the man who refused to give him a burger. He asks what he is doing, but soon after the workers come outside to present the monster with another burger. Without even thinking about the price, he begins eating them all at the same time. Leo asks why he is doing this, only to learn he thinks someone will steal them. Leo then informs him that he could have bought 16 burgers for the price he gave the workers. The monster shares that although he looks peaceful, life is hard for him out in the streets. With even the burger joint denying him service, he is forced to pay extra and rely on others for his burgers. Upon hearing this, Leo proposes to buy him some burgers for him at the usual price. He then introduces himself to the monster, who introduces themselves back as Nej. Leo thinks this is just some random monster. He will help not knowing how deep of a relationship he will form with it. As the days go on, they begin eating burgers together every single day, making Nej's money source seem infinite, despite him just loitering around. One day after eating a burger, they find a special face within the burger wrap, allowing them to get another burger for free. Nej jumps with joy after seeing this, and refuses to turn it in, rather wanting to keep it as memorabilia. They then begin talking about their mothers, where Nej shares that he has no memories of his mother. He knows that there is a person who he is supposed to call Mom, but he has never seen her or met her. With this in mind, Leo assumes he must have just been too young to remember his mother. After hearing this, Nej tells Leo that his mother doesn't even remember giving birth to him. Meanwhile, the workers talk about how they are being blackmailed at gunpoint by a thug. With this in mind, one of them pees his pants in fear, until he ends up hitting Nej once again. This time, instead of being nice, the worker runs over to beat him up out of anger. With everyone watching, they question how someone could run someone over, then beat up on them. As the monster gets beat, the humans begin to wonder if the monster even feels any pain, thinking everything is all right. Then suddenly, when he hits the monster, it pops, causing a fume to erupt in town and knock everyone out. After these events, he takes the driver back to his room to wake him up. He then asks what happened, but he has no memory of him beating Nej up. Following these events, Libra heard about the large number of people getting knocked out, but they are unsure of how it happened. They assume that it was carried out intentionally and think that someone was sure to do this on purpose. After hearing this, Leo runs out into town asking about Nej, thinking it might have been him that did it. Despite him asking everyone around, he never finds him until he remembers Nej telling him where he lived. He heads to this location and soon finds Nej sitting on a bench all alone in a corner. Leo asks what he has been up to, and Nej explains he has been sleeping. He then whips out the paper that they had won the previous day, telling Leo he is so lucky to have found it. After hearing this, Leo is then knocked out cold by someone and tied up. Upon waking up, he finds Nej getting beat up once again by the workers, claiming as long as they get him to reveal his spores again, they can make their money back. He continues striking Nej without any remorse, hoping that it will emit the pores after he hits him enough. After some time, he begins turning red like last time, making them sure that he is soon to erupt like last time. Leo then wakes up, and with no other option, he begs them to stop hitting him. The workers show no plan on doing so, however, so Leo asks Nej to remember his mom. After doing this, he begins to fade his redness away, causing the workers to start over again. As they try to bring it back out, Leo attempts to escape from the workers. Nej then tells Leo that he will hold in the spores and never forget him. Despite him getting beat up mercilessly, Nej continues to hold on, eventually ticking Leo off. He decides to use his eyes to make the workers go crazy, taking control of their eyes. When they come back to reality, they approach Leo this time, knowing he must have some kind of power to hurt them. With this being known, the worker strikes Leo and knocks him out, drawing tons of blood. Following this, Nej emits his spores once again, being unable to control his emotions and knocking everyone out. Before he knew it, Leo was in the hospital after being affected by a mass amnesia. With him being unable to remember anything from the past 2 weeks, he has completely forgotten about Nej and his relationship with him. He then goes back to the burger joint like he usually has and realizes he bought enough for 2. He wonders why he did this, but continues forward regardless. As he walks down his usual street, he begins to remember the previous times he was eating the burger these past 2 weeks. With him being unable to remember why he ate so many, he begins crying. And suddenly Nej runs to his side, but gets hit by a truck, causing him to rush to his side. After waking up from the crash, he asks Leo for a bite of the burger, causing him to feel a bit of déjà vu. He tells Nej this, and this time decides to let him have some of his burger. This started their relationship once again from scratch, without him knowing he already knew him. Following this, he goes to meet with White, where he finds the King of Despair inside of her room. He asks if he was the guy on the subway, but he tells Leo it's his first time meeting him. White informs him that he is her older brother, so he decides to formally introduce himself, telling him his sister always takes good care of him. He then retracts his statement, making the older brother feel comfortable around him for roasting his sister. The big brother introduces himself as Black, opposite to White's name,